Hello and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Friday, April 30th, 2021, and today's topic is called Sky Drifting. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening April 22nd through the 27th, 2021. And before we get into those sky observations, I'd like to say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobrohonya, annyeonghaseyo, boa tarde, dobry den, aloha winala, kalimera, and hurandach. And today's starter image is of a palm tree seed pod that opened up so beautifully recently in Miami, Florida. And before we get into the show, I'd just like to say a heartfelt thanks for being here and welcome, whether you're new or returning. If you are new to the show, I'm going to be covering some photos that I'm going to call original or enhanced going forward. When I say enhanced, I simply mean that I've edited attributes of the photo, such as color, saturation, contrast, brightness, things of that nature, just to better highlight and get at some areas of interest in any given photo. I'm also going to drop in some letters occasionally just to kind of really highlight the key points and kind of keep us on focus and keep the running time tight on the show. That just helps to do that. Also, I'm going to refer to some things as strange cloud activity. That's cloud in quotes. What I'm referring to with the cloud in quotes is cloaking material and suspected cloaking craft happening up in any given scene. And when I say cloaking material, I'm referring to something I'm going to just say is plasma, something that's heavier and denser than just water vapor or cloud material, and that lingers and stays in the sky longer and helps to cloak some of these craft. Now, when I say craft, I'm referring to something that is more than likely alien tech, so ET technology, whether basic or advanced. It could be in part military or human effort there, or collaboration as well. But again, I'm going to be leaning toward the ET side of things. There also could be 3D craft that you could knock on it, touch on it, that type of thing, or it could be very interdimensional, so very phantom-like, and or it could be 3D craft that's phasing in and out of state at the moment. So there's going to be a whole range of possibilities, but I'll address them on each individual slide as we go forward. Now, starting off with this one, we're looking south at a sunrise, and this kind of captures the title of the show with the sky drifting. This just reminds me of some sand dunes. If we look at it with the enhanced version, you'll see it just kind of reminds me of the drifts of sand dunes, but happening in the sky. Now here we're just going to look very quickly at A and B because in this whole scene, it just looked like this was one big camouflage for other things happening beyond. And in this case, at letter A, at 8.1, kind of looks like we have a distinct shape happening here, and again over here. It looks like actually these are longer shapes that have cloaking material wafting over them and kind of camouflaging them. And it's much darker here than everywhere else, so I am suspecting that that is craft. Also, there's a really bright white point here. Looks like it's reflecting something. So I'm going to call that cloaking craft. Now, this could also continue all the way across. It's hard to say. I'm not sure if this is one big long shape, but look where my cursor is. It's got a very jagged and strange edge, something looking very solid behind it. So it could be multiple craft all over the place or one big long one. See what you think. Okay, now we're going to look to the west. Now this was really bizarre this morning because everywhere you looked we had this kind of strange pattern. And whether it was a little more dune-like in the previous slide or like this. Now what's really weird is everything was fuzzy to the naked eye, and you look over here too. Now as you see the trees are in focus, it's not the camera. So when I see something very fuzzy, it looks like out of focus, and there's just a lot of disturbance in the atmosphere, I just refer to that as staccato cloud. So just means very choppy, intermittent, discontinuous, and just very disruptive. So to me, there is something up in this atmosphere local that is creating this kind of disturbance. It's a very odd and just strange overall scene. Now in this one, we're just going to look at area A and 8.1 of areas of interest. I mean, the entire sky is of interest in this case. But look at this. Down here we have a more solid object. Looks like it has cloaking material fanning out in front of it, and down here too. I'm going to go ahead and say that there's a cloaking object here, here, and here, or this is one overall cloaking craft. Also, we just see this weird, like gray, smoky color flying off with this slightly different material than whatever the rest of this quote-unquote cloud, material is. Then we're going to look at this scene looking east at sunrise, and on the left is the original, the right's the enhanced version. And even though there is a lot going on that I could talk about with this sunrise, for instance, the ball of supposed sunlight is here. It would look very artificial and bright and glaring. But in reality, given the timestamp here, the sun really should be down here. So I think this big dark layer of cloud, this blanket of cloud at the bottom, is concealing the fact that there is another light source here toward the horizon, and that this indeed is an artificial sun or solar simulator. I talk about that in other shows. Do have a look there and at other Earth and Sky watching channels for more evidence of that around the globe. Anyway, we're going to look at A for now, going up to the top. So here's the original. There starts to be a crystalline form, and what always grabs my attention is when we see bright points amidst a darker, solid color background. So let's jump over to the right-hand side at 8.1 and see the enhanced version. And look at this. It looks like a triangular form. It maybe has like a, a scooped edge to it here, but with some cloaking material, kind of coming in front of it to disguise whatever's happening in here. Anyway, have a longer look on your own time, if you can, and see if you see anything else in that photo of interest. Now, we're going to look again at this strange structure, this pattern happening in the sky. Again, it was really unusual. I've never seen it like this, blanketing the whole area. But we're going to look at A and B on this one. So letter A, we start to make out a very clear form. Look at this curve. There's a break in this cloud. It looks like almost like the head of an iron, like when you do an ironing board, iron type thing. And then B, this looks like a clear triangle with a very sharp edge poking up out of it too. So we're going to look at this with enhancement, and here we go. Again, we kind of see this camouflaged iron-shaped looking thing, and then a very clear triangle here. Okay, now we're going to look at another scene. This is toward the evening, looking east though. And we're going to look at A, B, C, and D. On the left-hand side, we just see something really blurry. Looks like there's action happening up in here. Again, like a localized, kind of isolated atmospheric disturbance. This doesn't look like any kind of cloud that you could, classically name. It's not cumulus or cirrus or stratocumulus. It's none of that. So what is this? It's just kind of like a interference and choppiness. So we're going to look to the right to see it a little bit better. Now, when we look at 8.1, actually we're going to hop back over to the left, we start to see an imprint happening in here. So that's the letter A, just kind of like a clear shape forming a void. Then we're going to look at B.1. It's, this triangular shape here. It's in the void. So we've got the edges. We've got like cloaking material forming this shape. So I'm going to say there's a cloaking craft in here. It's triangular in form. Then we look at C.1, and we just see these edges here. It looks like these right here, these points, could be splayed triangular forms, again, imprints of them. So like here's an imprint at D.1 of a triangle. And then again, we just have this strange disturbance. So see what you think is going on in here. Oh, and D.1 is this little puff here of a cloud that's in a perfect triangular form. So I'm going to call it that there's cloaking craft. Actually, if you really look in this photo on the right-hand side of my cursor, as you see another triangular imprint, we have multiples going on in here. And these kind of things tucked in front, that's cloaking material. So anyhow, see what you think is going on. It's a really bizarre scene. There's even more going on beyond here. Again, I'm not going to be able to touch on everything, but see what you think is happening. And this little speck over here is the moon, by the way. Okay, now we're going to look at this scene. We're going to look at A, B, and C. This is looking north, and this is again in the morning, close to 7:30 in the morning, sunrise. Sunrise would be happening off to the right in this photo. So we're looking at A. We'll jump over to the right-hand side to the enhanced version. And here we have a darker, much darker territory happening beyond. So I'm going to say there's something cloaking here. B.1, look where B and C actually are referring to this one shape. Look at this. It's got a very specific hard line edge here, and then it's a little more flowing over here. This looks like it's detached a bit, like that could be a separate little entity of this thing, whatever it is. And then we have this like this flow of like a draft, of smoke making a perfect curve this way. So it's almost like what happened? Did this thing come out of nowhere and fly upward this way to create this like wave curve of vapor, or what? It's just very intriguing, this entire scene. So we're going to take a closer look at just that element, and here it is just to the naked eye. And when we get that nice enhancement, Here we get to see a little bit more happening. So it almost looks like a little opening is happening here. It's almost like a little swimming, like a fish mermaid sky angel thing. Like this looks like to me like the eye in the shape of a koi fish head with the open mouth, and these would be like an arm going back behind it, and this arm like swimming in front of it, and with kind of like a mermaid tail or fish tail. So maybe it's just like a big koi fish with arms. That's what I'm seeing. If you can see what I'm seeing, a shoulder here with the arm going backward and then this little arm going forward. That's just kind of the fantastical cloud play, angle of it. But really, what is this thing though? It's very, has a very kind of supernatural feel to it. And then up here, whatever's going on in these clouds, something has a little more mass to it as well. See what you think is going on. Then we're going to go to this scene, and we're just going to look at A through D. This was just a weird, cloud, and in a more of a vertical orientation, and then something with a more of a horizontal right below it. So that's not a natural cloud, any way you slice it. So we're going to look to the right just to see things a little bit better. So at 8.1, looks like this overall thing is just kind of zooming up with little legs trailing behind it. It looks like it has a vapor cloud that, just implies this thing is moving upward. Then we come to this thing, and look at it. It's much darker in nature, even though these are right next to each other. And, it's got much darker mass, and it looks like there's cloaking material happening all in front of it. And even at B.1, it looks a little more triangular in shape. So see what you think is happening. At D.1, it also looks like a little triangle happening back there. Some kind of mass happening over here. And look at this darker, much darker material, whatever that is. Or maybe that's a piece of something popping out, of this cloaking material, of some type of craft. I'm not sure. But the overall scene is just truly bizarre. Then we come to this one. We're just going to look at A on this one. So what's odd about this is the angle that these things are, and they are parallel to each other. And then we go over to the enhanced version to the right. This has a definite curve, all the way down to it this way, almost like this. So I'm going to call that a cloaking craft with some wafting kind of, vapor trailing in front of it, cloaking material. This even looks like a tube of some sort popping out. And then I think there is something cloaking here as well, because we're getting these at both at the same angle. It's really, really bizarre. Most clouds would just pass across horizontal. Okay, then we're going to look at this strange cloud activity looking west. And we're just going to look at A and B for now on this overall scene. But this stuff kind of erupted out of nowhere. It just appeared, this darker cloud material, quote unquote. We're going to look to the right just to see things a little bit better. And here we have like a circular element here. It looks like it has a definite structure to it. So I think this overall thing is a craft, coming down. You can just see weird edges to this darker part with cloaking material in front of it. And then B.1, we just see some kind of object with looks like cloaking material around it as well, because you got the lighter, tufted kind of choppy material around a more solid mass. And then this is weird. This has a lot of texture to it, so I'm not sure if that's just cloaking material or what, but it looks like it is, in front of another kind of darker object. Then we're going to look at this scene. This gets pretty obvious and clear when I go to the enhanced version. We're going to look at A, B, and C, and we're going to see these three distinct elements. So we've got a triangle over at C, triangular shape, a sphere at B, and A, there's probably a triangular shape back in here as well. Just an overall strange scene. This is even starting to form like a ring. What exactly is going on there, I am not sure, but there's no way in a natural cloud formation that you can have a triangular form, a ball, and some other nondescript shape. While we also had some strange, very low gray cloud activity happening, very low to the ground here. And then we also kind of start to make out a triangular shape here as well. So there's a lot going on in this scene. I'm going to call it Cloaking Craft again, see what you think it is. Then we have, looking off to the west, these again strange forms just kind of billowed up out of nowhere. We see this kind of, has a vertical orientation, just kind of popping up out of nowhere locally. And this one off to the angle, and a strange split shape up here. So we're going to look to the right, and we see again, this is just a really strange formation. And this is like a whiter, object. Looks like it's cloaking beyond here, some cloaking material. Then we get this weird billowing effect, again like a column just going straight up out of nowhere, and this one going off to the right out of nowhere. Coincidentally, I put that in quotes, this starts to spread off and then conceal any view of the supposed sunset going down. But look at this. We have like one element here at C, another separate one looking like it's cloaking in there at D, And then B.1 looks like a very clear darker object, with cloaking material wafting in front of it. So see if you see anything else in there. It's just all very bizarre. Then here's a panorama of that same scene. Now it's not going to be a true panorama. I moved the camera across. It kind of got hung up a bit in places, but you still get the idea. So here's that one stream of billowing, I'm going to call this all artificial cloud because it just spontaneously grew out of nowhere. And then this one going up, and then we had more, going off to the side. And then we have we still have this strange, kind of split looking object here, I'm going to say is an object cloaking. And then we look at all of this same panorama with enhancement, and then we start to note, very warm color signature bursting out over here where the sun is setting. And again, we just have some strange, shapes in here. This has a triangular form at the top. And just the consistency and character of all of this is not of a true cloud. Look here, even there's like a break, like a little fissure line where these two connect, like a perfect jigsaw puzzle, and that doesn't happen with clouds either. Normal clouds of at least of decades past. Now we're going to look at, sorry, I'm going to go back. I think the next scene, I'm trying to think, is happening somewhere around here where my cursor is. And then all of a sudden I started to notice this really bright white crystalline points popping up with dimension and shadow. And this looks like it's like a letter A with that little crossbar starting to poke out with shadow to it. So I'm going to say something was cloaking back in here. And, intermittently you could see a little more of these pieces and a little less as some of this like cloaking material blew over. And then C is just noting too, just really bright white points amidst a bunch of grayish background. So I'm going to say there was some kind of craft activity happening beyond all of this cloaking material. Here's with some more enhancement just to see, you can really see that edge of this thing over here by 8.1 and perfect symmetrical shape there. So I'm going to say there's definitely some type of craft cloaking beyond. We're going to zoom in just one more time again at that A element down here. You really start to see something poking out. So I'm going to just say that there are some kind of machine parts or some type of definite craft parts, hiding in behind that cloaking material. Then we're going to look at one more view over there toward the west, and this gets interesting because as we look up in the sky a little bit higher, we see what looks like the edges of an imprint, so like a triangle formed by this cloaking stuff around the perimeter, and then a darker area in here is the imprint. But then look at the outside, all this weird stuff, a pure straight line happening here at A. So we're going to look over to the right-hand side and look at letter 8.1. Here we go, there's something happening here, a triangular imprint here, weird stuff happening here where these like triangular forms are happening off of this like spine. And then B1 and C1 are just referring to, darker elements that could be cloaking craft. We have a triangular shape here where my cursor is. And at B.1, this is a huge triangular, like backlit shadow of a triangular shape. Looks like even like a tube or a pipe coming out of here. So see what you think is going on. To me, this is definitely a triangular cloaking craft with some type of tube extending, and maybe this is responsible for generating the weird artificial cloud material, this type of pipe. See what you think. Okay, this one we're going to look at left and right again. This little dot here is the moon once again. And this overall cloud just kind of started billowing up, again kind of localized and out of nowhere, kept growing and expanding to cover the moon. And so we're going to look at the right-hand side, but before we do, what really caught my attention was letter A, above all things. I'm going to spend time there. I start to see a cross form in shadow. So the darker parts across and then the lighter points, look like a disc or something around it. So that's actually what I really wanted to get at. And then there was also this kind of cloaking material disturbance happening adjacent at B. So let's look to the right. And here you go, 8.1. You see clear cross form in there, so that looks like symmetry. It looks very structured, very engineered. And then here it looks like an edge of a triangle popping out at B.1. Then I was just flagging, C.1 we have some points and another triangle over here. D.1 we have some pointed, edges here too, which would not be a normal cloud. And then E.1 we'll start to see stuff I think a little bit later, a little bit better. So here we're zooming into, I'm just really going to focus on A and B right now. You can see the other stuff maybe on your own time. Take a look, again, D.2, I was looking at the edge work here of these points. It's really strange. Anyway, we're going to focus on A and B. So 8.2, Again, we have like this groove. It looks like two deep set grooves on some type of object. And it looks like this overall object just kind of flew up from out of here, because you see like a vapor trail. And then here you can still see, to me, I see a pure triangle form here with a little shadow going below it, sitting in a cloaking cloud. Then we're going to go in and zoom in one more time on A and B. I know it's going to be a little bitmappy, but you can still see this clear groove this way and a groove this way, and highlight points sticking up here, in 3D relief. And then, this is the edge of that triangle I was seeing. Really bizarre. Here's another bizarre scene, looking east this time. And look at letter A. It's just a strange overall... actually, my apologies, this is looking northwest. Northwest, yes. Northwest. So A and B is just looking at this side of this overall form. Look at it's tiered, and it echoes, the same shape and pattern. The arc, echoes and repeats. And then we have a weird little object here, so we're going to look to the right, and we're going to see this overall assembly is just really made up of some very interesting and curious parts and pieces, and especially when we get to B.1 as well. Just strange. And then we're going to zoom in on it one more time on that like tiered, echoing piece. And it's kind of a mystery of what could be happening in there, but I'm telling you, normal clouds, again, don't have come up on an angle like this, and, another one sequentially behind it, and then kind of turn on a different angle and make a weird shape. This is really a mystery. Okay, then we're going to look at another scene looking west, and this gets interesting too, because this overall cloud looks really artificial. Actually, let me hop up to the upper left-hand corner is the original photo. So looking off in the distance, this is just a really weird, loose, like ragtag overall formation of a quote-unquote cloud. Just seems like artificial. Doesn't seem to hold itself together like a natural cloud. So then we have a straight line here. It looks starting to look like a triangular imprint, and another little one over here. So we're going to look at the overall bigger scene. So D is that imprint. You see a straight line. You see a straight line looks like the forming of a triangular imprint. And then we look at A, B, and C, and we see three, distinct elements at the edge of this cloud, quote-unquote cloud. This overall thing, too, is pitched on such a sharp angle that's not like a normal cloud floating across. And we have these also bright white points, crystalline in nature. So I'm going to say this almost looks like the end of the tube as well. I'm going to say this whole thing pitched on an angle is a cloaking craft, with three independent craft, just outside of it. And look at this weird arc of this artificial smoke, or whatever you want to call it, bridging off of that thing. We're going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see better what I'm talking about. So again, we've got one element, another more triangular element with something popping up off of it, and another strange shape. And then this overall thing has got to be a cloaking craft, because again, we've got these brighter white points. It kind of moves in a circular motion in an arc. There's stuff popping up out of this thing. But again, see what you think. This down here is the sun going down toward the horizon. And we're going to zoom in one more time. Some of this stuff is now falling apart a little bit more. And we just see these, three distinct shapes. And here's with kind of extreme enhancement just to really blow things out. And you see a triangular form, some type of rectangular form, maybe with like a little curve on it. And then something else, happening in here. Okay, now we're going to look at more strange cloud activity at sunset, this time looking east. On the left-hand side, it's the original, and just how strange this whole little collection is moving across the sky together. It just was really odd, and especially since when we get to B and C, that was really low in the sky. And so we're going to look at the enhanced version to the right. We see some color signature picking up from the sunset, diametrically opposed to this, because we're looking east, and the sunset would be happening to the west, obviously, or northwest these days. It's a whole nother story. But here we see some little pieces of things happening around the perimeter of this thing. And this overall cloud assembly just did not feel natural. And especially when we have like at B and to C, like something going way down on an angle. A is kind of looking triangular in shape, and just the whole thing was odd. So we're going to zoom in down to that B and C part. Now I thought at first that B2 and C2 were two separate pieces, like that was a triangle and this was something else. But now that I look at it, I just see this as an overall kind of almost like a torpedo shape or flat fish shape, something with like wafting cloaking material going over it. And then there's something obscured in here too, something's being cloaked. And then obviously at A.2 as well. And there's a weird little thing flying off here. All right, then we're going to look at an overall scene. The upper left is the original photo, and this is looking west, toward sunset. And look at this. We've got, a strange, strange ball, puff ball here. This starts to hook around. We're going to zoom in and take a look at this. And then, other activity going along. I'm sorry, one more time I got this flipped around. This is looking east, not west. And then we're going to look up at A and D. So each also have distinct shapes. This definitely looks like a bunch of chaotic, disturbed, stuff in the atmosphere, which would be characteristic of something trying to cloak. So we're going to zoom in on that one big puff cloud, and here's that little hook element I'm talking about. It's like a perfect semicircle. So what is going on here? Why is this thing coming out with a hook on it? And then 8.1 is starting to look like there could be both a triangle form and a spherical form in there. Hard to say, but let's look at some enhancement. And here we go. Look at on the fringes of this thing. We've got weird activity coming here. It looks like something's kind of either shooting off or jetting back into this cloud, which I'm going to say there's a cloaking craft in here. Here I almost see a silhouette of a triangle back in there. Definitely see a triangle here. If you look at C.2, there's something of a completely different color and texture. It looks like different material just sitting on the edge here. And then here we go to this weird, hook-like thing. What's going on there? There's some bright white points that show that something is either reflecting or that's bright white crystalline nature in and of itself of whatever's in there. And then here at 8.2 we see more clearly a triangle, another object beyond it, and then this also looks like a triangular form cloaking. Then we're going to look at to the left of where we were just looking in the sky, and we just see more shapes and things, and just things get really weird as we get over here toward F and G and even at H. So we'll look at that with enhancement, and here we go. This looks like an overall form cloaking, maybe even interdimensional, or just has some really wild cloaking mechanism on it. And then G.2, just something strange is happening there. And then H2 too, it looks like something's here cloaking beyond, and maybe this too is something kind of interdimensional. Hard to say, but one thing for sure, this is just all kinds of strange. Then we're going to zoom in one more time on the F, G, and H elements, just to see if we can see anything more when we go in, and I don't get any other clearer answers, just probably more questions. But it just feels like something is amiss and something is cloaking in here. Then we're going to look at this scene. Upper left is the original. We're going to come down here. So here's our cloud where we had that, stick and the hook, and now that's kind of disintegrated and fallen apart. But now what emerges is this definite clear, like, what do you want to call it? A V, like a sideways V, or less than sign. It's a very clear shape. So I got to believe there's still stuff popping up out of this cloud that's of a cloaking craft or tech and nature. And then, we have this thing kind of fallen apart, or is that the shape holding, but just interdimensional it be? And then here at C, this starts to become a strange shape in and of itself that we're going to take a look at here at C.1. Just a very odd shape for a cloud, the way it's dipping in here and doing all these things. There's a bright white point, so that tells me there might be something reflecting in there, or it's crystalline structure of a craft. So we're going to look at it with some enhancement, and bam, that white point still holds true, even though everything around it is dark. So there's something going on in this thing, it's definitely something cloaking. And then, just trying to get at what else could be going on in this thing. And I don't really get to it, but maybe you see something. This is acting weird. It's kind of like a circle with some things radiating off of it. Yeah, I don't know. See what you think. Oh, and there's something happening in here too that looks like bright white points and fuzziness, like two things are being cloaked here. All right, then we're going to look at this. This one's pretty simple and straightforward. Again, this is the thing that seems to be cloaking, hiding a lot of stuff cloaking, I believe, inside of it. There's some white crystalline stuff that starts to happen here and here. So we're just going to look at letter A for now. And even though I put all kinds of contrast and strange things on this, this part still holds, brighter white blue, and down here too. So I'm going to call those as, parts of something cloaking. And then we're going to look at that same cloud down here at A on the left-hand side, and mainly we're going to focus on the B part of this photo. So we look to the right, and 8.1 was our little puff cloud there, mysterious cloud. And up at the upper right-hand corner at B.1, we start to see the imprint, once again, of some type of triangular shape. So I'm going to say that's some type of cloaking craft up in there. Or sometimes when I say I see these imprints, is it a cloaking craft or something interdimensional? Or is it just one big portal that these things eventually come in and out of? I don't know. But again, see what you think on all of that. All right, well, thank you for hanging around here a while. We're going to just close with another scene of this beautiful seed pod on some palm fronds in Miami, Florida. I thank you for being here, and I wish you a beautiful weekend ahead. And whether it's daytime or evening, wherever you are, hope it's just beautiful. And I wish you tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.